Welcome to Spiritual as Fuck,
Spiritual as Fuck,
a podcast where we explore everything outside of the ordinary. I'm Liz Volpe. I'm a social entrepreneur, now psychic medium, teacher and mentor, with a huge passion to inspire people to dream big and change the world.
I'm Diane Driscoll, a coach, facilitator and speaker. I'm also a psychic intuitive, learning to incorporate my spiritual gifts into my life and business.
We're here today to share real and raw spiritual stories. It's going to give you a safe space to challenge what's normal and have some serious fun along the way.
We hope you're ready to get spiritual as fuck.
William Whitecloud is the founder and chairman of the Natural Success Academy, a creative development trainer and best-selling author of 3 books, The Magician's Way, The Last Shaman, and Secrets of Natural Success. William was born in a small African country called eSwatini, where he grew up on a sugar and citrus estate. His upbringing was also immersed in the supernatural worldview of the tribespeople around him and their magic. After boarding school, William started his career working for a South African commodities trading company, then moved to Australia and progressed to speculating on the global financial money markets. This was an unlikely place to be baptized into the world of spiritual and supernatural phenomenon, but William's mentor was someone who used profoundly esoteric methods for predicting market movements. William's mentor reignited his childhood fascination of hidden forces at play in the world. Through the twists and turns of life, William went on to develop substance abuse problems. He lost all of his money, his marriage broke down, and he was diagnosed with what was termed to be an incurable, life-threatening illness. With his life at rock bottom, his attention turned to seeking ways in which he could practically apply magic to create what he truly wanted, a life rich in health, wealth, love, and creative expression.
Okay, welcome back everybody from all over the world. And today we have an extremely special guest. I mean, I call everyone a special guest, but I'm particularly excited because, it didn't take me long, I had to quickly go to my bookshelf as I do and pull out a book that I bought in 2012, I believe. It's even got my old name on from being a youngster. And I read The Magician's Way. Yeah, it feels like, I was a youngster at the time. It wasn't that long ago. But it was at the start of my spiritual journey and I'd started to discover these type of books. And I remember reading that and just being, just so tapped into kind of the magic and the energy and this feeling that there was more to the world. And I went off on my own kind of journey from reading that book. So all these years later, I've known so many people that have done your courses, William Whitecloud. Can we welcome him firstly? An official welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. It is. And you have changed loads of lives in terms of teaching magic, sharing your experiences, talking about intuition, and we're going to go into a whole lot of stuff today. But I have to start with a story about how shocked I was actually. Because I'd known you from the books and I'd known you from courses. And then a few weeks ago, I listened to a podcast where you shared your story growing up. And I remember having my little heart shattered, stepping into kind of the young Liz at 5 or 6. And when I heard you share the tough start you had in life, William, and the fact that your dad was, let's be honest, quite horrible. And I just remember thinking, whoa, like, how on earth did you navigate that being young and end up going on this journey? Like, how on earth did this all start? Would you be open to sharing, I guess, your younger years?
Yeah, sure. Not all of it, because we'd be here for years. I actually had in one way a very idyllic life in one way, and also there was a very dark side to my childhood, right? I grew up and my very most formative years were in a very heavy time, where my life and my family's life was, under great threat because we were colonialists, we were white colonials in Africa, or my family was, and they were part of the colonial regime, if you like. And Africa was aflame. It was called Uhuru, the sort of liberation, the freedom movement, the freedom fighters, taking people's lives. And we were at one time, our house, our family was guarded by 100 English soldiers, right?
Wow.
Stopping people coming at killing, to kill us, right? So, like, you just took it in stride, but later in life you realize, wow, that had a psychological effect on me,
Yeah,
that
wow.
I lived in an environment where people wanted to kill me and would have if they could have, and that was just the external. And my father, who was a great guy, and that I loved in many ways, and was a great guy in many ways. But he had a shadow side to himself as well. And for whatever reason, because he didn't do it to any of his other children, but he did it to me for some reason. He picked on me, and he projected onto me because he was dyslexic in his childhood, in a time when they didn't know what dyslexia was. And so his, the authority figures in his life gave him a real hard time, and he suffered greatly for that, and without any understanding, because he was a very brilliant man and he did brilliant things in his time, but he also suffered from an intellectual challenge that wasn't understood. And so he was humiliated and made to feel very stupid and unworthy, and just whatever, like he just wasn't good enough. And for his father, who was a judge, and so then he somehow dumped that on me and put it on me that I was stupid, and just things that are not related to intelligence, that if I was not doing well at, he'd relate it to intelligence and equate it to me being stupid. So I just got this message that I was really stupid, and anything that I couldn't do, like if I couldn't immediately swim well, wasn't because I didn't have a sense of swimming. It was because I was stupid. So everything was I was stupid, and take that stuff on, right? And so I started to believe it, and then belief creates reality, as I've now discovered. As we know, belief creates. So I believed I was stupid, and so that's I created that experience of not being intellectually capable, and then you attract it. So then at school, you won't believe it, the teachers, I attracted these teachers that were just the same. That's like, I was stupid, and they used to do things to humiliate me, like read out my essays, and let the class know how bad my essays were, and just how
That's
how
heartbreaking.
incapable I was, and they do it with sort of comical timing and that, and get laughs from the students and my fellow students and that, and so I had a really tough time, and just became completely incapable of being at school and attending school and finishing school. And so I left school uneducated, basically, and not very well equipped. And God bless my father. He was like, "Don't worry, son. Here in Africa, white people got no chance, right, unless they're well educated in that. But you could make, if you go over to Europe, there, you can get a job as a garbageman or something like that, and they pay them quite well, because nobody wants to do that work and that. So if you go to Europe and be a garbageman, you'll make a life for yourself. You'll be able to make your way as a garbageman." And I swear to God, that was his message to me. So anyway, I didn't enter into life with any sense of worth or security or ability to to make my way. It wasn't only going to be, it was very, very difficult for me in terms of what options I had in life, uneducated, intellectually challenged, and all of that. And so anyway, it led to a lot of problems.
I was just going to say it's fascinating to me to just think of what that little boy would think of today, knowing the thousands of people that you bring through your programs, the thousands of people whose lives you have touched. And I'm sure that in some way, so much of that was driven by whenever you had that moment of realization that the stories that you were, believing about yourself, those limiting beliefs that had been projected onto you, that you had accepted, that at some point you rose up against those to be the person that you are today. And there's a huge journey between those two ends of that spectrum. What were some of those moments that, where that little boy rose up and just said, I'm not stupid, or I have more capability than this, and then bringing that even a little bit further to say, not only am I better, I actually have this innate ability to be able to help unlock genius within others?
Well, you see, where it took me, it obviously took me down a very dark road, right? I went down a very dark path, and I had a lot of health problems and psychological problems, and that led to drug problems and substance abuse, and because I had a lot of problems. I won't bore you or anyone listening with with a catalog of problems, but a lot of them, a lot of my problems, I used to were I used to alleviate through self-medication. Really, is like the only thing that could help me, or I believed was the only way I knew how to, alleviate it. And so it led to a lot of problems, and the biggest problem of all, in the end, it led to such chronic bad health that it led to my deathbed. I was dying literally, and not just not hyperbole, just as an exaggeration to help you understand how bad I was. I was on my deathbed in the end, and it was kind of a long path to that. And so with what was wrong with me, the thing about it was very interesting, because nobody knew what was wrong with me or could tell what was wrong with me. There was no doctor, and I was seeing professors at medical professors and psychiatrists.
Wow.
I went to everybody, and there's nobody had a diagnosis. Just nobody. There's just like nothing. I was like on my way out, and right at the end, when I was literally getting deathbed counseling, and I had a deathbed counselor urging me to just move on and end my suffering and everybody else's suffering. I met someone who I just met. I met someone, a complete stranger, who I got talking to. They forced themselves upon me, actually, because I was just feeling so bad. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was just sitting in the park for some respite. And they sat down next to me and forced themselves upon me in a conversation. And it very quickly turned around to the state of my health. And this person said to me, I know what's wrong with you. I had what you got. I had exactly what you got. And I was very annoyed with them and upset. And I thought, well, they're professors at university, and that couldn't help me. This stranger, this young dickhead sitting on the bench next to me, certainly didn't know. But then he told me his experience, and I went, he knows. This is exactly what I've been going through. Everything I've suffered, everything that's happened, every way it's gone, everything. This person knows. And he said, yeah, it's easy to fix. It's really easy to fix, and I'll tell you now, and you can be fixed in days, and I'd been sick for 10 years on this 10-year slide. And I imagined if I ever found a cure, ever found out what was wrong with me, then it would take years for me to come back and get right. And this guy was just saying, he said, no, it's easy. And so he says, do you want to know? So I said, yes.
Of course.
Yes,
I mean,
please.
I believed him. I believed him, right? I believed him because when he told me what his story was, I was and now here he was sitting there. He was a PT instructor, gym trainer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but strong young guy, a strapping young man. And so he said, okay, so this is what you must do. You must throw out all the vitamins, supplements, Chinese herbs, whatever, or throw it all out. That's what's killing you. That's what's contributing to killing you. And now this is what you must do. You must start eating meat again. You must when you have meat, when you have animal protein, you must drink some white wine with it. And
Wow.
also have a couple of coffees every day and
Wow.
smoke a few cigarettes. Don't
This
smoke
this sounds like my kind of guy.
that was his prescription. It's like smoke a couple of cigarettes every day, drink a few cups of coffee every day, have a few glasses of wine with your meals. And I'd given all that away because all that was supposedly what was killing me, right? Or would kill me. And that so I hadn't had meat for years. I hadn't had a drink for years. I didn't smoke for years. I didn't have any coffee, caffeine. And my heart just sank when he told me that. My heart just sank. It was just, oh no, this is going to be the death of me. What he's to, but I just went, oh well, what have I got to lose? And look at him. So I just went like, what the hell? And I did it, and I followed his prescription, and I bounced back to health immediately. Like I had no memory, I couldn't think, concentrate. I used to hallucinate, all that. It just stopped immediately. My short-term memory came back. Everything. I didn't have tension headaches anymore. My energy came back. I wasn't fatigued. I mean, I was in a really bad way, and so like my weight took a while to come back, and the sores
Yeah.
on my body took a while to heal, and all that. But I mean, I was right in. You think I'm exaggerating here, but in
Wow.
days,
But in your own body, like when something shifts, like, and it doesn't matter what doctors or anyone
yeah, no,
else
I
tells
was,
you
I was,
anything,
I was at back. I
inherently
was back.
yourself.
It just, I was 10 years back in time again, instantly. Just my old self that I was 10 years ago, just back. So I just want to explain how I got to where I am now is because you see, the thing about it though was that I realized there was a realization in me that it wasn't the meat and the alcohol and the nicotine and the caffeine that did it. I just didn't get it because I got, well, a few years ago I was doing that and I was still sick and all of that. So it's not that. It's not that. It's something else. And I knew what it was. I just inwardly knew what it was. I knew that it was the way I'd been paying attention. Like had this very negative vision of desperately trying not to be sick, not to be a burden to others, not to prove that I was rubbish, all of that, right? And so it's all this what I didn't want to happen to me, what I didn't want to be. And I was desperate for that. And then, at the very end, I didn't want to die. And then I was just dying. And I just realized, I'd just been so focused on all of what I didn't want, and that's what had been reinforced, that's what persisted and amplified, and that but just going, what the hell, I just gave up that focus. I just wasn't, from when I just started eating that meat again and having, drinking alcohol and whatever, I was just like, whatever. It wasn't even so much of what I had a new focus in life. I just didn't have that old negative, what I call a negative vision, where what you want is driven by what you don't want. And I just got it. I just went, there must be some way in which my focus creates my reality. Although I didn't have that language for it at the time.
Yeah, you had the sense of it.
And I also didn't understand how it worked. And I just went, I've got to find out how this works because this is what it is, but I don't know the mechanism. So, and with that intention, so now I had a new intention, is to find out how this works and use however this works to create what I do want in life. And then I was drawn to creative development. found the people that were involved in it and teaching it, and so I became a student. And then, I was like a duck to water. I found my way, found my path. And I, that one of the first things that I learned is that belief creates reality, and we make it all up. And I had made up not only all of my conditions and experiences of life, but all of my beliefs about how I was stupid and, whatever, housing, like my incapability and everything. I just made it up. That I'm like everyone else that I now know, like you and me and
Yes.
everybody. We're just pure potential. We're just pure possibility, and we can be actually whatever we want to be. So I decided to become William Whitecloud, and I did.
And here you are today.
Exactly.
The first book I wrote was a book that, if you think about it, if you've read it and you think back, if you think about it, if you've read it recently enough, it's a book about how your focus creates your reality, which was my first realization.
Wow, I mean, what a realization.
Now here I am, and here we are, and
Yeah, it's incredible, and I know that there's times as humans where every single one of us can relate to being in a situation where we feel like incredibly stuck, we're feeling frustrated, all of the negative things are happening, and you're in that spiral, and it just feels never ending and hard. And I can imagine listening to your story, people are like, "Oh, wait, it was that easy?" When you look back, just out of interest, when we're bringing in kind of the word magic into things, I love how you suddenly found yourself on this bench with this random stranger. Do you consider that to be magic? Is that a bit of synchronism there at play?
it was best thing that ever happened to me in my life. Unbelievable. I don't know. I don't have beliefs about anything, and I never consciously chose the person to come and sit on the bench with me. I wasn't holding out. I could never have imagined that a solution would have come to me in that way. So I hadn't intended it. I hadn't chosen it. But it happened, and it must be destiny in some way. And I just thank God or whatever it is out
Yeah.
there for arranging it that way. That I can't explain it, and because with my model of creating and living, and that is one outside of beliefs. Really, we live according to premises, not according to beliefs. So we like something like that is, I'm not going to make up a belief about what it is. I don't
Yes.
fully know what it is. um, what I do know is that our focus creates our reality, then that's what I learned. And that's what I know for sure. How that happened, was it just luck? Was it destiny? Was it, the universe guiding me on my path to bring this to other people,
Yeah.
I maybe, but all I know is I'm one, I don't know if it's luck. I don't even know if it's that, but I feel like I'm one lucky guy that I met that person, found it necessary to talk to me and force a conversation out of me, and then offer me, the prescription that healed me. I just feel very fortunate about that. I don't know what it is. It's like, I think also, one thing I'll credit myself for is that I do have a sort of like this ability to, although I'm talking about myself here, but it is interesting. I do have this ability to sort of get something and go, yeah, no, that's right. Just like with him, when he gave me that prescription, and my heart sort of fell, and just like, oh God, no, don't tell me I got to do that. That's going to kill me. But I just got it. I just got, yeah, no, that's what I got to do. And it's like when I was writing The Magician's Way, when I set out to write The Magician's Way, um, I started writing it as a how-to book, as a sort of non-fiction self-help kind of book. You know,
Yeah.
I just these principles that I was going to just mechanically trot out and go, well, here's what it's about. Because I didn't know any better, I'm not educated. But then when I started writing it, it turned into a story, and I just kept going like, no, I don't want it to go this way. And then it was like that guy going, you eat meat and drink alcohol. I go, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, but I will. And I just resisted it a few times. It's like, no, I don't want to go there. I just want to. And I just went, no, okay, I'll go with it. I'll just write it. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just let the story come out. I didn't know what the story was. I just let it write itself.
Wow.
It sounds like channeling, William. It feels like it was,
Oh no,
flowing
well,
through
yeah, no, that
you.
book, that all my books are channeled
Yeah.
in that sense of the word channel. You know,
Yeah.
it's just because I mean we know that there's a part of us, a genius part of us that's got it all. It's got it. It's all ready, and you just have to receive it and let it come
Yes.
through. You know, and so yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that, about that creative genius that is inside of all of us. Because I know, and like for people who aren't familiar with your work, whether it's 5 steps or the 5 levels of genius, if you can summarize, I know it's difficult to summarize something that's such a huge body of work at the same time, but I love that you are able to break things down into very simple terms for people as well. But it's just for people to get a sense of, I find it a very different way of viewing the world and viewing what creativity is, particularly because I view creativity as being, oh, you're a singer, you're an artist, you're a poet, you're you know yeah, like it's not like I'm a financial accountant who happens to be creative, but I know that through my understanding of your work, it is finding that creative genius in all facets of life, regardless of how you show up in the world.
A definition of creativity that I relate to, that I resonate with, and that I like, is that it's the ability to make connections that aren't normally made, you see. So it goes outside of what we know through a linear, understanding and process. And so that's what creativity is. And great music is that, and great art. If you look at someone who you'd say is a great photographer, they're a great photographer. They got an eye. Well, yeah, they could, because they got a perspective the rest of us don't have. You know, they see something there that we didn't see, and then we see it in the frame that they give to us. You see, or in the music that they give to us, or whatever. And so we go, oh, they're creative. And traditionally, we associate that with artistry, but conventional artistry. But it goes way beyond that. I mean, it's our ability to expand our sense of reality as we're experiencing it now. Our fixed way of seeing the world, that we can go outside of it and actually have a much broader perspective of it, and a much more inspired perspective of it. You see, that's creativity, and innovation and invention. That's creativity. You see the principle, the premise that I live by and that I teach, and is that, and as I say, it's not a belief, it's a principle, it's a premise, which is just a working understanding of how something is and how something works, right? It doesn't even have to be true. So one of the funny things, like how there are patterns in our lives, and one pattern in my life is swimmers. I'm just always got this association with champion swimmers. My brother was a champion swimmer. I've
Ah,
had friends. My first mentor was a champion swimmer.
Wow.
I've got one of my trainers that works for me is an Olympic swimmer. They're just bloody champion
everyone
swimmers. I
attracted to
can't get
you.
rid of them. Uh, and they all tell me the same thing, and I even ask them, because I've heard it from some, and then if I meet one, I go, is this true? Is this what happened to you? And they all say that when they get taught by their coaches how to swim, one of the things they do, they get these visualization techniques, and they say, imagine that when you're swimming, imagine that your hands are paddles. And when they imagine that their hands are paddles, you can imagine, if you had paddles, you would draw water more strongly, would swim faster. And so just by imagining that, they swim faster. They do. They actually swim faster than if they don't imagine that. And so that's a premise. Is it true? No.
Yes, but the brain doesn't know any different.
It's a way of, it's a it's an approach that gets a result, you see. And so I like to use premises rather than beliefs, because beliefs just make you go, well, that's how it is, and then you're stuck with that. There's no room for expansion, alternative views. There's actually no there's no room for creativity once you have a belief,
I
So
love that.
we don't have beliefs because there's no room for creativity once you have a belief. And if you've got a collection of beliefs, you're especially uncreative. You see, the premise that I operate on and offer to others is that, and it's something that was given to me that I very happily accept, and do see a truth in it, is that we're pure creative spirit. Who we actually are essentially is pure creative spirit, connected to everything through all time and space. We're just one with everything. And that's the basis of our creative power, is that we are one with everything and informed by everything through all time and space. And so there is that side of us. And I'd say the the bigger side of us is for the most part, that is what we are, is pure creative spirit. And that side of us is just pure genius. Not from an IQ point, the old-fashioned IQ point of view, the old intelligent quotient. Not, but genius from a creative point of view, because this part of us knows everything through all time and space. It sources our knowing from everything. Whereas our rational brain and egoic side of us just sources what we know from what our five senses can tell us, what we've read in the newspaper, what someone, in a linear way passed on to us, what we remember from our experience. And a lot of that is distorted, very, very distorted and illusory, only relatively subjectively true. But on the other hand, we have this side of us, as I say, that knows everything, depending on which side of ourselves we identify with or occupy. I'd put it, right. Then that's what we're going to experience. So in the first part of my life, using myself as an example again, I occupied my identity. I occupied my ego and experienced what I knew, and also a projection of what I knew. And that was it. I didn't experience anything outside of that. And then what I learned is I'm not that, and actually mostly what I am is pure creative. What I actually essentially am in truth is pure creative spirit, connected to everything through all time and space. And I learned that I could at will become that, occupy that, and then operate from that. So that, as for instance, as an uneducated high school dropout who knew nothing about reading and writing and had no knowledge of writing, then I just occupied that side of myself, and I wrote my first book, which was an international bestseller, and
Wow.
and genius, see, because that side of me and that side of you and that side of anyone knows how to write a book.
I'm interested to know here because I can imagine, we've all got that genius. I don't know about you, William, but my ego can be really loud and can stop me doing things and, is really bloody annoying half the time. Do you still have, that push-pull relationship with your ego? Or do you have any kind of stories around how you've managed that and how you continue to manage that?
Yeah, look, I can this evening, if I allowed myself, I can regress 30 years and just go back.
And God, it's not just me.
You don't ever,
You're
you don't
human
ever
too.
overcome it, you know. You don't, this is the thing. This is what people waste a lot of time and energy trying to get rid of their egos and trying to overcome their belief system, and you can't do it. I've been doing this 30 years, and I've seen every which way that people try and all that. And not only is it not possible, it's actually unproductive, because
Yeah.
what you're doing by trying to escape your ego is you're just giving it the power. You're
You're
focused on that.
focusing on it.
You're focused
Yes.
on that. Yeah. You know, your subconscious, which creates your reality, is going, oh, I see what we focused on. I see what we're giving the power. Wow, we've got an ego and they're very bad. And unless we get rid of that, we'll never create shit. You know, we'll never create anything. And look at us, we have got an ego, and look at us, we can't get rid of, you know, and it just amplifies that side of ourselves and actually anchors us ourselves in our egos, rather than, you know, allowing ourselves just to move out and occupy the genius side of ourselves. But, you know, to answer your question, you know, which led me into that is, yeah, all the time. And I am associated with people who I know have been creating as long as I have, or even longer. And you know what they call it spiritually? It's called the battle of evermore. The battle of evermore. It's a battle that lasts forever. It just lasts forever. You know, it's the mists of Avalon. You know, all of that mythology, the battle of evermore, the
Yes.
mists of Avalon. The goddesses, the priestesses can come and the wizard can come and clear the mists and all that. Guess what? They're just going to come over again.
Yeah.
It's always there, and it's always coming back. It's always creeping back, and you always just needing to use your will to appreciate the illusion and go, okay, I see illusion, we're stepping back. Right. If I now have, you know, and I did recently, I have a little health scare, health crisis, and for a few days I was back in it. I'm going to die. I mean, all right, you know, right, I've got no more power. Oh, doctors, what should I do? You guys know, I don't know. I was right back in it until I said, Jesus, snap out of it, right? I was down the rabbit hole instantly, right? You know, and yeah, so that's the answer.
Yeah, it's. I just want to share a personal story on that, because I was listening to, in preparation, obviously, for the interview with you. I've been listening to some other podcasts, and you know, so much of my own work aligns with you know, your teachings as well. And but when you hear someone say something to you and you realize you're at a particular point in your life, and for me, I realized I was focusing a lot of time and energy on what I didn't want rather than what I did want to come out. And I would generally view myself to be someone who is constantly, you know, feeling into that future state, you know, solid, good vision, how I'm going to expand myself, live at a higher level of consciousness. But I was observing myself as I was listening to your podcast that you were being interviewed on, and thinking, shit, I'm back there again. And it was great, because that level of self-awareness was, well, do you want to stay here, or do you want to, you know, oscillate back up and, you know, choose the reality that you want to create? And do you want to focus on that, and do you want to bring yourself back into it? But you're so right. And I think it's so beneficial for our listeners to hear that, is we're all human. You know, we're all here having this, you know, 3D physical life experience. We're gonna have our moments where, you know, life gets tough, and you know, that there's, you know, the shit hits the fan about something. But, you know, do we sit there and wallow, or do we focus on that, or do we shift where we want to focus and create that new reality, which is the premise of so much of what your work is. But that example that you're giving there, and I guess me adding in my tuppence worth of what was happening for me in my life.
I think I went and actually wrote on a post-it note, "Focus creates reality," and put it in front of me. Like, this is a reminder I need to read every bloody day, you know.
Well, yeah, we all need that reminder, and I'm just really lucky, very fortunate that I teach this work and I coach this work, and it keeps me reminded. It really does. It does keep me reminded, and doesn't matter who you are. You need the reminder. You need the reminder, because focus does create your reality. My mentor, my original mentor, used to say to me something that I'll never forget. He used to say, mastery, self-mastery isn't the focus to the point that you never lose your focus, you never slip or anything, because as a human being, you will be. You go through life, you're constantly being triggered. Your ego is constantly luring you back. You see,
Yeah.
very convincingly. And there's not a human in the world who doesn't lose their focus. And so mastery isn't the condition of never losing your focus and just staying so right, so right-minded constantly. It's mastery is measured by how quickly you refocus.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what that's what it's about, is how quickly can you refocus, how quickly can you recognize, okay, I've slipped, I'm in it. And that's why, conflict is a wonderful thing just in this way. By conflict, I just mean whenever we're triggered, we're upset, we're in reaction, we exercise, whatever, right? We've got tension, we've got stress. It's not that we're looking for it, but it's a signpost, is that we're not, that if you're stressed, if you are if you are in tension, you're stressed, you exercised, you're in reaction, you upset, you challenged, whatever, it's a signpost. What you're experiencing it as a reality, that you've got a problem, there's forces that outside of you that have power in this situation. There's your relationship to that, how you haven't got power in the situation, and now you're sort of grappling with that reality, and you can go down that rabbit hole, and you'll just get further and further down the rabbit hole. But if you're trained, or if you train yourself, you use conflict as a tool, first of all, as a signpost, like, if I'm in this condition now, I'm not in my genius. I'm not in my center. I'm not in my creative perspective any longer. And so, and if you know that, then you can act on that. You can go, okay, well, let me put myself back. And one of the great things about conflict, if you are with conflict, which expresses to you through thoughts and feelings, if you're with that, you can very instantaneously deconstruct what's going on for yourself, what you're telling yourself, how you're defining, what limited definitions and whatever that you're putting on yourself, what outside of you you're giving, or, it can be internalized, but you know what I mean by outside of yourself, other than your spirit that you're giving the power to, right? You can like tell all of that practically instantaneously, because people don't realize it. But if you're trained, or you train yourself, feel emotions, they're just cruddy, the charged ones anyway. They're crummy feelings, and they're icky and that.
Yeah.
But you know that they're speaking to you in English, or whatever your native tongue in. They're actually talking to you. They're telling you. Emotions aren't just a feeling. It's like it's language. If you're with it, you can hear they're telling you in English. If you're an English speaker, they're telling you in English what you believe, who you're giving the power to, or everything. And it enables you then to go, oh, okay, and take it away from that and put it where it belongs.
But it is the mastery of that. It's learning that, because most of us, when we have those icky feelings or those big feelings, it's like we don't want to sit with them. We don't want to handle them. So we'll, go have a glass of wine.
We want to make it go away and bury it, or overcome it, or whatever, and in doing so, give it the power and capitulate to whatever it is that we give our power away to. And whereas also another thing that everyone should realize if they want to be creators and powerful creators, is that tension is creative. It's the fuel of creativity. So not only when you resolve tension, and you're so quick to resolve tension, well, first of all, you give the power to what it is that you believe is more powerful than your will to have what you want. You give that the power. You reinforce that in your subconscious, but also you kill the tension. Thereby, you kill your creative energy. You kill your creative fuel.
Can you give us a specific example of that to bring it to life for listeners? So that moment of tension and that giving the tension away, or you're not utilizing that moment as a creative force.
The example that comes to me is, let's say you're a writer, like,
Yeah.
okay, and let's say you want to write, you see, and you sit down and you now have tension because you are under pressure to come up with something, you see. And so now you're under pressure. Well, you self-imposed. You're feeling under pressure to come up with something good, brilliant, fabulous and meaningful, whatever, something good. And somewhere in there, you just don't believe you have it in you to do that. So now you're conflicted, you're under pressure and all that. So imagine you have a drink, right? Because you're so upset, and so you go, well, I'll settle myself by having a drink. And so you have that drink, and yeah, it numbs your brain and all that, and sort of settles your tension. But now you've capitulated to the part of you that says you don't have it in you.
Yeah.
You've capitulated to the part of you that says,
yes.
And you've dulled your brain, by the way. You see, you've dulled your brain. You know, look, I know many artists, writers, musicians, and some of them very well known, very famous, right? And I know them. And they tell me the same thing, is when they're writing or they're playing music or something, stoned or drunk, they think they're doing brilliantly. When it's played back to them or they read it the next morning and that, it's shite.
Not so good. Not so good.
So you've numbed yourself. You've and you've capitulated to what says, you haven't got the power, and you reinforce that. Yeah, you're not that good. You've reinforced that. Plus, you've physically made yourself useless, right, or less than good in that situation. Whereas, if you learn to hold the tension, out of that tension comes creativity, comes wisdom. I mean, there's this alchemist triangle. It's like that, and it's got the eye and the eye in the middle of the pyramid. You've seen that before, right? So that pyramid is an alchemical principle, actually. Truth, love, and wisdom, you see. And what that is, it's a symbol that is actually speaking to tension. Truth and love create wisdom. What does that mean? It means there's where you want to be, and there's where you are, and they separate. There's a discrepancy. You are not where you want to be. You are here, and you want to be here, and you hold those two things, right? And that discrepancy between where you are and where you want to be creates tension. And out of that tension comes knowledge, comes wisdom, you see. And so you're a writer and you're feeling tension. You're feeling, I've got to get this blog post out. I've got this article to write. I've got the publisher's deadline, and I've got to perform and all that. And that's where you want to be. And here you are, where you are, feeling the way you're feeling and all that. And now you're going to have a drink to resolve that tension. Well, you're killing the creative tension,
You
right?
diffuse the tension.
Instead of going,
absolutely.
Yeah, I want to be there. I'm here. Let me hold that tension and sit with it
It's like building the capacity
I
to
guess
be
it's
able
like
to
fuel.
hold that tension. Yeah.
It's fuel, I'm telling you. And not I mean, I just gave you an artistic example, right? If I can call it artistic. But it's like that with anything. It's like, you know, whatever it is. You want love in your life. You want to write something. You want to materialize a home. I don't care what it is. Tension creates it. If you ever study it, guarantee you, everything in the universe was created according to the principle of tension seeking resolution. That's what wind is, you know. That's what everything is. And even crudely, I say to people, you're the product of tension seeking resolution. One night, you know, way back, 9 months
I'll just stop you there,
before
William.
born, there was tension.
Brilliant.
It sought resolution, and look, there you are.
The penny has now dropped for all of our listeners.
You know, the Big Bang, you know, the Big Bang,
Yeah.
not that,
Yes.
but the start of the world. This all exists because of Big Bang. All the universe, all the energy in the universe was the size of a pea. That's how big the universe was. All that there's tension, and it exploded, and
Had
it
to go
created
somewhere.
all of this. Every butterfly in the world, the trees, the stars, you, me, our thoughts, all created tension-seeking resolution.
Yeah, it's funny because I've never heard it put in that way, but I completely get it. I just feel like I need to jump on one of your courses ASAP.
Yeah, you do. Everyone does. You know,
Everyone does.
It's powerful stuff. It's very powerful stuff.
Yeah.
You see, the meaning of the average person's life is resolving their beliefs, is making, you know, compensating, making, because you believe you this, you that, you go, and you go, well, okay, so then the meaning of my life must be to overcome that. See, I mean, it is true. And I see it all the time, and I see it in myself, I see it everywhere. But that's not actually the meaning of our lives, right? It's not the meaning of our lives. The meaning of our lives is not to compensate for who we believe we are, right? Or who we believe we aren't, or whatever, what our limitations and our separations and all that. The meaning of our lives is to live as expressions of our highest potential and create what we love. You say, you need to do my work, and I say, yeah, you do. Everyone does. And I mean that. Everyone does. Because it's just based on how creative nature works. It's a profound understanding of how creative nature works and how you apply it and get on with living as an expression of your highest potential and creating what you love, instead of resolving your identity, which isn't what it's about, but what everybody thinks it's about, right? And so you get off that train, that wrong track, and get on the right track. And it's very powerful. And when you redirect your energy, just like, you know, that how amazing it was that I was on my deathbed and I sprang back to life in days, you know, just, it's amazing when you're on the right track, you just manifest your highest good in life. How it's just amazing, right? And now we've got a lot of evidence of it, because in the pandemic, we gave my foundational training away to 60,000 people, and the feedback that we got back is just overwhelming, so convincing. So many people going, man, that was the missing piece for me, you know. Wow, like this is the real deal. This is like, now I create exponentially, not incrementally, you know. And you know, listen, it's not mine, right? This stuff has existed for thousands of years. People over thousands of years figured out how we work creatively.
But you're still the one who brings the magic together.
This is ancient knowledge, I'm sorry to say. It's not, it's nothing new. But you know, it's like someone figured out gravity a long time ago. You're not going to refigure gravity out. It was there to be figured out, and it's been figured out. So thank God.
Yeah, thank you for helping us to remember it, you know, and to bring it to focus.
You've provided us with so much, I guess, insights and information and new perspectives and ways of looking at things. And normally, Liz and I, when we, at some point in our podcast, we ask our guests for some pearls of wisdom or some advice to share with our listeners. But I'm not going to ask that of you. I'm not going to ask you for a piece of advice. I'm going to ask you a tough question, which is, if you were to summarize your life's work, your life experience, like all of the things that you bring to bear to your students, to the people who do your courses, the people who, lift your book and read them and their, change their lives, how would you distill that into a couple of sentences?
Well, that is tough, Diane. That's not very nice, is it?
Well, can I just say this? Can I say this? I think this is the most useful thing I'll ever tell people, because thanks for not asking me for that piece of advice, that thing, because I do get asked for that a lot, and I think it's the wrong question, really. You see, because there's no quick fix to getting on the right track, and there's no quick fix to getting on the track of your power and your ability to live as an expression of your true potential. It's an education. It's an education. And I know, you see, what I see is people going from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, getting knowledge, never really applying it, and often it's just junk knowledge anyway, so they apply it, it doesn't work and whatever. But just, there's just this continual searching and all of that, and getting pieces of advice and pieces of information and whatever. But what it really takes is, an education, is getting educated. You know what they were, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's actually true, is that the word education comes from educere, which means to draw out of, to bring forth, so that what is the substance that is in us is brought out of us. People are just running around looking for things to cram in, and no one is, taking the trouble and the care to go, okay, so what is in me? What is in me? And even assume that there's something great in there, and I'm going to take care, and I'm going to take trouble to bring that out of myself, and then use that, because that's the whole idea of education, is realize what's in you, use that. Because you see, I'm uneducated technically,
in the traditional
right?
sense,
academically,
yes.
I'm supposedly uneducated and unequipped for life. But you see, what creative development did for me was bring myself out of me, what I had in me out, to use. And now I use that in being very, 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 very successful in life at all that I undertake, and all that I care to undertake. And my advice is, dedicate yourself to that, to a true education. Educate yourself, but really not just learn a whole lot of things and metaphysics and all that. Education, what's in here that's brought out, that intention, because intention rules the universe. Your focus creates your reality. If you make that intention and you make that commitment to educate yourself creatively, spiritually, you could say, like what's in you, and the dedication, commitment to bring that out of you for you to use to create whatever it is that you're going to create, so that you develop, not formulas and processes and that, but actually, committed to relying on yourself, what's in you, and using that. Well, then you are going to really have a very, an amazing, magical, that's where magic derives from. So that, if you don't mind, that's what I will say, because that's my message to people, really, seriously.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
It's yes, because it's just to hear that it's hard to distill a life's work and a life's experience, but it is so valuable to hear that as well.
And I think for anybody that's listening, so many pieces of gold there, and we will add in all of William's links, programs, his website, obviously the books, into the show notes. And I want to say, I think I did say an amazing guest at the beginning of the show, and I think that now you're my favorite guest because I've never called myself a genius before, but now I'm allowing myself to. So thank you, William.
Well, you are. We all have genius. Can I just conclude by just saying something by giving you, the definition of genius. I mean, this way, you see, because even academically, there are levels of creativity, and it's not an exact science yet, but I mean, it is now an actual subject at universities. I've got friends who are professors of creativity at Columbia and this and that, right? Really, authors and professors and that. And so it is now like a formal subject, you see, but it's still forming as a science, right? And so it's not exactly like this, but the levels of creativity are delineated something like this, you see. And I'm just going to give it to you very simplistically, but unskilled imitation, skilled imitation, and then derivative, low-level derivative, high-level derivative, and then innovative, inventive, and then genius. There's some in between and all that, but that's it basically. So you see, imitation, you just copy someone else. Derivative is some of it's you, some of it's derived, from outside of you. And then you start getting innovative, inventive, and then you get genius. And you see, in that scale, in that scheme of things, genius is where you don't draw on what's outside of you. It comes from you. One definition of genius is you don't have to be taught what you're doing. And, you don't draw on what's outside of you. When you see genius work, they if you saw Jimi Hendrix play guitar, he couldn't have learned that from somebody else. If you saw Salvador Dali paint, he didn't see, he didn't see paintings like that somewhere else and copy them or something like that, right? He didn't see surrealism. He invented surrealism, right? And it came out of him. It's a great movie, Midnight in Paris, and he's one of the funniest characters in it because every time anybody says anything, you say, "What you painting now, Salvador?" He says, "I'm painting a rhinoceros." and if someone says to him, "What do you think? What do you think?" He says, "It reminds me of a rhinoceros."
Standard response.
Everything's a rhinoceros,
Oh, brilliant.
And so anyway, that's genius, and we all have genius, and it's a brave thing to do, but boy, it's rewarding. It's our treasure. Go in. It's in us, it's in us, right? And so when you say I'm a genius, yeah, you are. Everyone is. Yeah, if you go in, you'll find, you're a genius.
We're all feeling 10 feet tall now at this stage. We're all absolute geniuses.
You feel 100 feet tall because you actually are 100 feet tall. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, William. That's just been amazing. And I can't wait to see you on one of your courses in the future. Thank you so much.
That's it for another episode.
Thank you for listening. Did you know that we are building a movement of 1 million people who are spiritual as fuck? We would love for you to join us. You can start by leaving us a review on Apple Podcast. Every month, I'm going to intuitively choose one person and do a psychic reading for you. So
follow us on Instagram, send in your stories and topic suggestions, and join the movement
at spiritual.a.f. Until next time. This is a Guide Your Light Network production, creating podcasts with purpose.